What up, everybody?
Hey!
We are here to talk about the Oscar winner.
The
for
Oscar
Best Picture.
winners.
Yeah.
Just the one.
Just the one, yeah.
Just the one.
Oh, yeah, the
My
Oscar
bad.
winner for Best Picture.
My bad.
Parasite. I'm so happy it won.
I am too.
Yeah.
The very first thing I thought was, out of all the other nominees, like I haven't seen all of them.
Yeah.
I haven't seen all of them. But out of the ones I saw, for sure, I felt Parasite should win. And I'm really glad it did. It made me actually very happy. This is the first time I've actually been super happy about the Oscar winner.
Yeah.
In quite a while, actually.
Yeah, it's I mean, I was stoked when Green Book won.
No, you weren't. I remember.
Nobody was. Yeah,
nobody was not. Nobody was.
Green Book's fine. it was not that great.
No, I agree.
Yeah. It was the Joker of last year.
Green Book?
Yeah,
You think
like
so?
not in the. I think Joker's a better quality film, but I did think it was the weakest of the bunch.
Personally, I prefer Green Book to Joker.
I prefer Joker for Joaquin.
That's fair. The
I just think
performance,
that's enough for
the
me to be
performance
like,
of
yeah.
Joaquin in Joker for sure surpasses anything in Green Book. But I think the overall film of Green Book, I would watch again before I would watch Joker again.
Yeah,
That's just me.
Yeah. I hear you.
But other than that, we're not here to talk about that.
No, we're not. We're talking about
Parasite.
Yes. So let's just talk. I mean, first impressions of this film when
Mm-hmm.
you saw it originally in theaters.
Yeah, I went and saw it. I had a really awesome experience seeing it. I went and saw it at the Alamo Draft House downtown.
Oh, nice.
Have you ever been?
I've been to the one in Texas.
Okay,
so
yeah.
I know what it's all about.
It's awesome. It's a great viewing experience. I went and saw it with some friends in like the early afternoon. The experience overall was awesome, but the film was just so tense.
Yeah.
Like I could feel myself being pushed back into my seat while I was watching it. But like it's fully engrossed. It's a long, kind of very slow burn of a movie.
Yeah.
But I was so just focused the whole time. That first viewing for sure. And I was very, very enamored by it. And I'm not a big like foreign film person. I don't watch a lot of foreign films. Not because I don't like them. It's just
You need to get over the 1-inch barrier.
yeah.
I got you, Bong Joon-ho.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah. Sometimes when I watch a foreign film, I have trouble following the story because I'm trying to read.
There you go.
So it's something I do need to train my mind a little bit to do a little bit more to be able to read and follow. But this film was made and written in a particular way where the way they were talking was just very like everyday, very normal, and so I was able to really follow along and watch even though I was reading as well. So this was probably one of my favorite films I've ever seen. I really, really loved it.
Yeah.
What was your first viewing of this movie?
I tried to go in blind because I'd heard such great things already.
Yeah.
So really all I knew about it was that shot of the Mrs. Park walking up the stairs and the Illinois-Chicago part. That's all I knew.
Illinois-Chicago.
Yeah, that's all I knew. And yeah, man, I was just blown away by this film.
Oh, yeah.
I was definitely one of those people that was telling everyone, you got to go see Parasite. It's so good.
You even knew more than I did going in. Actually, the only thing I knew about it was that it was a South Korean film made by Bong Joon-ho. Because I knew that because I love his previous work.
Yeah.
With Snowpiercer, and I like Okja. I don't think it's great, but
too.
I like Okja.
Yeah. No, I do
so
too.
I like his previous work a lot. So that's all I knew about it. I knew it was South Korean and that he directed it. That's all I knew about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, it was an incredible experience. That midway point when you start to go down. I mean, honestly, as soon as they follow the woman downstairs and she's up there against the... I was so... on the edge of my seat.
What is happening?
The entire time. And
ooh.
Yeah, it's an incredible film. There's a lot to get into with it, so let's get going. I guess let's first talk about just the portrayal of class inequality throughout the film. Obviously, I think that's a pretty big theme.
Yes.
And he uses a lot of like camera angles to show it and a lot of motifs. I think that's one thing I love about this film and why I thought it should have and it deserved to win Best Picture is everything in the movie is working to tell the story.
Yeah.
If you notice, in a lot of shots, there's a line that divides the rich and the lower class people. And of course, that's something that Mr. Park talks about throughout the film as well, crossing the line. But as soon as Kevin, that's his American name that he chooses, right?
Yep.
Walks into the Park house, he's waiting to talk to Mrs. Park, right? And we see the house servant, I don't remember her name. Do you?
Nope.
Well, we see her approach Mrs. Park outside, and the way they frame the shot, you see Kevin and the servant on one side of this kind of angled plane, and then you see Mrs. Park on the other, like they're unwilling to cross.
Right.
And throughout the rest of that scene, that continues to happen. When they get upstairs, she's on one side of a line on the ceiling, and he's on the other side.
Oh, wow.
And at the end,
That's
when
so
she
subtle.
finally hires him, that's when they get on the same line.
That's so subtle. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and there's multiple times like that. When Mr. Kim meets Mr. Park at his office, right?
Right.
You see him behind the screen, and there's a line there, too, that's dividing the both of them.
That's so good.
Yeah.
You always notice really cool shots like that. Something that we were watching it together the other night, right after the Oscars, and something else you pointed out was there's lots of shots watching the family, right? The poor family going up.
Oh, yeah.
Going up the hill, going up the stairs, going up the escalator. There's lots of shots of them going up, as in the metaphor of
ascending,
their social classes beginning to rise because they are leeching off of this family, right? But something that I just thought of earlier today while I was ruminating on this film was the whole theme of the smell, right? That this family has a smell to them. And I thought about this a lot, and it finally dawned on me. It's the stench of poverty.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
It's literally, no matter how high you climb up this social ladder, the stink of being poor coming from the lower class is going to follow you.
Yeah.
And immediately that was like, oh my gosh, now I understand that so much better. Like I understood it within the context of the story. Like, yeah, they live in squalor, so they stink. But then like the actual metaphor of the smell being, it follows them no matter how well they dress.
It's inescapable,
yeah.
right? Like there's really no ascension. Right. And I think that's a theme that he plays with too.
Upward mobility, yeah. Mobility is really hard in certain class systems.
Yeah, when you see, I think arguably it's every class system.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's America too. But I think part of what you see is Kevin, of course, talks about how he wants to marry into the family, right? And then his parents say, we're going to have to hire actors to play your parents because we can't do it, obviously. Right. And it is that idea that you are just always going to be in this class. There really is no mobility in that sense. And you even see Kevin at the party, right? This is another great shot where he's looking out the window, but he has the reflection looking back at him, and he's asking, can I fit in with these people?
Right.
Do you think I could ever actually do it? And at the end, right, we see that beautiful ending where he buys the house, and instead of it ending on that black screen, it pans down to him, showing that he's never going to do it. There's no way he can possibly achieve it. So yeah, I think the idea of the class system is this thing that's set in place. The smell definitely indicates that.
Yeah, it's such a brilliantly directed movie. Yeah, you always pick up on the visual stuff more than I do. It's just not something I inherently see. I usually find like the more like writing type stuff in there.
Well, I think that's the thing about this film is not every film has that kind of stuff, has these visual motifs. But going back to those, you see a lot of times characters leave the dark and go into the light as well, the way they use lights. Early on, when Kevin is first going to the job interview and he says to his dad, like, someday I'm going to, actually go to this college, you see him literally exit out of the alleyway from the darkness into the light. And as he's going up the stairs to the actual house, it's pretty common for films, right, to turn that around so we can see his reaction as he goes. But instead, Bong Joon-ho chooses to follow him from behind, making, him look bigger, and also he's ascending literally into the sunlight behind, right? He's ascending into this higher class. So, I mean, when you have like a technician like Bong Joon-ho, man, I feel like it's amazing. It makes me giddy thinking about it. Yeah,
he's amazing. I mean, I can go into a little bit more of like the things like that line you just talked about with the whole like, hey dad, like I don't look at this as fraud, like forging his college his diploma, right? Or his diploma. I don't look at this as fraud. Like I fully intend to go to this school, and like this is just an advance on my degree, but I'm gonna go. It's like the whole crazy and nice thing about this film is they don't look at themselves as bad people. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like most people don't. And of course, and they're looking at this as a means to an end, and even at the point where you think like, oh, they've crossed a line to being murderers or bad, really bad people. There even is that moment of like the mom and the daughter being like we're gonna figure this out. We're not going to be the people that we almost were. Yeah. Like, and then Kevin decides to take things in his own hands, and that's where everything kind of goes off the rails. Yeah. But there was a moment where they're like, no, we're gonna fix this. We're gonna figure this out. Yeah. But as you said, they had already crossed this line, kind of thing.
Let's talk about the line, because that is definitely a theme that comes up. We already talked about it with the camera and the shots that he sets up, but just in terms of the dialogue even. There are multiple times where Mr. Park in particular says, oh, Mr. Kim almost crossed the line, but he never quite does. I think what is especially interesting in regards to this is the car scene where Mr. Kim, it's after he's already gotten the job and he's trying to basically get his wife a new job, right? And he's being very friendly with him. He gives him a business card, right? Almost, and he kind of says, like, you could tell your wife it's from you, you know, like, don't tell her about me and you'll get some bonus points. It's kind of like this, oh, we're friends, right? But then instantly the next line is, keep your eyes on the road. Like, yeah, okay, we're chummy, but you're not on my level. Like, let's keep this line clear. And,
well, I mean, there is even the physical act of reaching back and handing him the card, right? That is physically crossing that line.
Yeah.
Not only like with how his relationship, he's getting a little bit too friendly. Also physically, like, actually crossing the line with his action, which was great too, and kind of pairing those two moments together.
Yeah,
was great.
Yeah, and I actually don't know if I have much more across the line.
No, I mean, but here's the thing: you already hit something that I didn't notice in that first kind of description of Bong Joon-ho's directing, and again, deserving of his best directing Oscar win.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know a lot of people were thinking Sam Mendes was going to get that for 1917. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, great film.
But I think that film got its praise with its cinematography win. I mean, Roger Deakins kills it, man. Roger Deakins is the best. Yeah. Is the best. He's one of the best. He's amazing. But yeah, what else we got?
Well, I want to touch on you brought up how he says at one point, Kevin, you know, this is not I don't look at this as like forgery. I'm going to go here. This is just like I got it printed out early, right? My certificate. There is this very interesting obsession with like Western culture going on in this film. And part of it in that sense is this kind of hustle culture, this, you know, thank God it's Monday, I love to work, like that kind of thing. Because the other moment where it comes up is when he is initially tutoring the daughter, right, with the test. And it's not because he speaks good English or because he knows his stuff. It's because he preaches that kind of hustle culture that, you know, you're going through the jungle and you can't stop. You have to, like, dominate this test.
You have to dominate this test.
It's this, again, so it's not actually his knowledge or his content. It's that he is preaching this dominate ideology that they understand.
You grind. You're a grinder.
Yeah.
You grind it out.
And even, I think it's so interesting how the man in the basement and even Mr. Kim to a certain extent, they both kind of revere Mr. Park. Which is similar to how lower class societies tend to view people like Elon Musk or Steve Jobs or, this is maybe a reach, but like Walt Disney, these kind of icons
I don't think that's a reach.
Of capital, and really we don't see the bad parts and how they are like using us. And
of course. Well, I mean, almost, you know, what is capitalism? You're putting out something to rake in money from all these people, right? So like, it's for your own personal gain.
Yeah.
Like, as much as the product may be helpful for everybody or, you know, whatever, everybody gets something out of it, it is still for a personal gain.
Yeah.
Right? So they are, in a sense, using us in lots of different ways.
Todd McGowan says, anyone could be a millionaire. All you have to do is have no morals.
Yeah.
And you're good. Yeah.
As, you know, and that, I think that is something that always makes me think about, like, Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, he because he has no qualms with doing whatever he has to do, he does rise.
Yeah.
Politically, socially, he rises and he becomes glass-wise. Yeah. But at the cost of everybody else. I mean, that's quite the look at capitalism in particular.
Well, even this idolatry of worshiping the rich, which I think is another fairly common thing in our society. I mean, you look at a lot of the just celebrity culture, how many people obsess over that, the status of money. We talked about this once before. I don't know if it was on the podcast or anything, but we talked about how a lot of times if a film is too violent, you'll have people decrying it and saying this is glorifying violence. If there's too much sex, they'll say it's glorifying sex.
Yes.
But if it's too much money, like Crazy Rich Asians, for example, no one says a thing.
No.
It's all just, look at these beautiful mansions. Let's luxuriate in these expensive things while people are starving in the streets. And it's this, again, I think it's kind of what happens in this post-capitalist society is that we are pushed away from critiquing that kind of capitalism. We're taught, no, that's actually good. It's kind of insidious.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, well, I think what it does is it keeps everybody on the train. You know, it keeps everybody chugging along, trying to, not on purpose, but it keeps everybody on their track to going forward, trying to get to that place, right? Most people never get there, but that promise that if you work hard and if you do this, you do that, you can get to that destination.
Yeah.
This thing that everybody wants, this life that is promised to be the best life, is what keeps everybody from deviating from the system. You know.
Yeah.
And you're right. It is a little bit insidious, but like, it's the only system we kind of know at this point.
Yeah.
We all gotta live.
There's different political systems that could offer, but I hear you.
Well, that's true, but I mean, every political system has its issues.
True. Let's talk about the title, Parasite.
Parasite.
What do you think it means?
I mean, very, very superficially, I can look at it as like the lower class family are leeching off of this upper class family. They kind of insert themselves into their lives and then multiply, which is what a parasite typically does. They take on a host, they reproduce into the host, and then sometimes, depending on what kind of parasite it is, they kill the host and move on. That's the definition of a parasite. Some parasites are symbiotic. Some parasites are a little bit more aggressive. I think they thought they were like a symbiotic parasite. They thought they were going to insert themselves in this family and they weren't going to destroy this family. They're just going to feed off of them because they have so much excess, and then use that to prop themselves up and then kind of build out from there. But it turns out they ended up being the other kind of parasite, the one that ends up accidentally killing its host, bursting out and destroying it. At the end of this film, the dad's, spoiler alert, the dad's dead. Mr.
Park.
Yes, Mr. Park, the upper class family. The father's dead. The son is probably traumatized forever. The wife is, husbandless. And the daughter is like runs out carrying her like unconscious person that she loves.
Yeah. And
then he like leaves her.
That's a nitpick.
Yeah.
How the hell did she get him up there? But
she put him on her back.
That's what I'm saying. I mean,
she seems very strong.
Yeah.
And then also the family itself, the lower class family, the daughter dies, the dad murders the other dad and has to go into hiding, and the son is hospitalized. All like both sides had casualties. It was I can't quite read into it much more than like the very basic kind of like easy to see metaphor kind of thing.
Well, I think the question to ask is, I mean, are the rich not also parasitic in their relationship? I think they are. I think they use the poor as a tool, and there's even like a pretty interesting. You could make a psychoanalytic read of some of the moments that happen in this film. For example, when Mr. Park is on the couch with his wife and he's fingering her, and says, "Oh, do you still have those like cheap, dirty panties? Like you're a poor girl. Ooh, that would like turn me on so much, right?" It's like this. I have to like fantasize that you are poor, use them as like this object for my arousal. So it's also using the poor as a tool in this kind of parasitic way. And even at the party itself, right? Mr. Kim, he was off that day. He wasn't supposed to work. They called him in and just said, "Hey, well, we're paying you extra." That leads into that capitalist, like, well, I gave you money so you can do whatever the hell I want. But really, it's this demeaning thing. I'm going to have you pretend to be an Indian, as they refer to it in the film.
American Indian.
Yeah, and like go out there so my son can beat you up, basically. It's this very debasing thing.
Yeah.
And it's not even viewed as anything other than, hey, I gave you money. And it's even said with some attitude when he says it to him. It's like, don't give me any grief on this. You're getting paid extra.
Extra. Yeah, not even just normal day. It's over. He's getting
dance,
paid.
monkey dance. Yeah. And it's so I wonder like who's the parasite, right? And I think they're just right. They're both ways. Yeah.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair. There's lots of allusions in this movie to like rats and cockroaches and things like that. The vermin of the world. And there's that awesome scene. I mean, we would be remiss if we didn't mention the scene right after where they all sneak out of the house and they have to like scurry back to their. Remiss. You won't be remiss.
I refuse to be remiss.
Oh, don't be remiss.
You said we'd be remiss.
I say we would if we didn't mention.
Yeah, I'm just saying if we didn't mention it, I would not be remiss.
Well, you know what?
Speak for yourself.
You're a jerk. Gosh damn.
Sorry, okay.
You know what? No.
Scurry out of the house.
No, darn you. Darn you.
Darn you.
Darn you for calling me out on that when there was no reason to other than to just be funny. Darn you.
Yeah,
Whatever.
No, but you're right. Please continue.
They have to like scurry all the way back to their house, and like rats. You know, they're like scurrying. No, they have no shoes. They're in the alleys,
going down
those
stairs, right?
all those stairs,
down, yeah.
and then they get down there and their house is completely underwater.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's not just water. It's shit.
Sewage.
It's
yeah.
sewage. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm surprised none of them got sick. Like I thought that was coming.
Yeah.
I thought one of them was
Next
going to get some
days.
kind of.
Next
I
couple
thought
days,
one of them was going to get some kind of disease.
Next couple days.
Oh, yeah.
But even there, we see again this inequality, right? Because while their lives are destroyed, essentially, their house is ruined. The next day,
the rain got rid of all the pollution in the air.
Pollution. We get to have this lovely
also like
party the next day.
Of all the pollution, as in like took out a whole neighborhood of poor people.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
got rid of the pollution.
I mean, I don't think that's what she was saying.
No,
but I see it as like
but that's
yeah.
like, and also like they had to run out of their house, so like now she got rid of them as pollution for the night.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they knew. I don't know.
I know she didn't know. She didn't know, but I'm reading into that more than what was she.
I mean,
was saying.
this film is so dense that I really think like
everything
you could make a lot of different arguments for it because there's just a lot of information there. But yeah, we just see, and even that equates to real life, right? Yeah. When there's a huge crisis, it's usually those in poverty who suffer more than the rich, right?
Usually.
Yeah.
Usually. Not always, but usually.
Yeah. That's why I said usually.
I know. I was agreeing with you. I said usually, yeah.
Really quick touching back on that smell thing, because we did touch on the fact that there is this stink of being poor, right? And ultimately it is what triggers Mr. Kim to stab Mr. Park in the end, is he sees not only, I mean, he doesn't only see the smell, but he watches as all these rich people abandon his daughter who's been stabbed.
And his wife fighting with the dude on the ground.
Just completely abandoned. Like really, two of them run over to get the guy. It's over. It's game over for that guy, you know? But they just abandon them. And then even in that moment, as he's trying to save his daughter, Mr. Park is shouting at him. Like, what are you doing? Give me the keys. We have to save my son. And yes, his son is having a seizure. She's bleeding out on the lawn. You would think just from a human being connection, you'd go help the bleeding woman. But he's not even thinking about it, right? He's actually insulting the man for helping, as far as he knows, just helping another worker in the house. But that is literally it, right? She's just a tool. So why are you helping that tool when my son is far more important? And then, of course, comes the moment where he tosses the keys, and as Mr. Park goes to grab him, he covers his nose.
Yeah. I mean, that is a very, obviously is a moment that's very important in the movie. I mean, Bong Joon-ho makes it so important. Like, you know, the score cuts out, it's silent. It's very, very clear that, like, Mr. Kim thought he saw himself in Mr. Park. Like, he thought, I could be that. I could be,
I don't know,
with enough, well, the whole family is hoping eventually they could get.
But they say earlier on, right? They tell Kevin, like, you're going to have to hire new parents.
Right.
So I don't know if he actually sees that, but I think there is that worship quality.
Well, I think there are moments where Mr. Kim is kind of like we talk about. He feels a kinship to at least admiration for Mr. Park.
That's what I mean. I don't think he actually thinks that he could socially climb that way.
But then to see that he's actually more in line with this guy that was in this basement for however many 3-4 years.
Yeah.
He actually has more in common with that guy than he ever will with Mr. Park kind of thing. And I thought that was a great moment where he like realizes it, and then ultimately at the end of the film he becomes the guy in the basement. He becomes the guy that's stuck in the basement for the rest of his life, maybe. So I thought that was really interesting. However, I do take a little bit of umbrage with
Dolores Umbridge?
No, not Dolores Umbridge.
Okay.
With the idea that Mr. Park doesn't. I mean, I do agree that he doesn't care about gosh, what'd she go by? Jessica from Chicago.
Yeah.
But I think most parents would immediately focus on their child first. Because seizures, while maybe not exactly the same as being stabbed, and bleeding out are still life-threatening. And they even said, like, in the beginning, he had a seizure and he could be dead in 15 minutes type of thing is what the doctors told them. Mm-hmm. You have to act just in a certain amount of time or else the child could die. I think most parents would put their child in priority over an employee.
But again, I think looking at the context,
right? But in the context of the film,
scene and the fact that he has been treating Mr. Kim as a tool, even Jessica when she got the call, it was not like, hey, come on by. It was like, hey, we're gonna pay you for this. Like, come by. Right. They're just tools. They're just you're supposed to do this.
Honestly, the only one that was really invited over as a guest was Kevin.
Well, but even so, isn't he just the tool of her?
The daughter.
And in a sense, the parents view that the same way. Like, oh, our daughter this will make our daughter happy.
Right.
Cool, let's bring that toy in.
Right. It's the thing that she likes. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I think there is just a little bit of like, I do forgive him a little bit for focusing on his own son first. Like, I think a lot of parents would take that route too.
I don't.
That's fair.
Really quick, I do want to touch on the go back to when the housekeeper comes back and she goes downstairs and we finally learn that her husband's been living down there, that there's this secret room, because in all of that, initially she's just talking with the mother, right? And the mother's basically saying, like, I'm calling the cops, you're out of here. She has all this power. And then the family falls down and she takes a video and we see this transition from her where she is just pleading, like, she's on her knees at one point saying, please don't call the cops.
Calling her sis.
Yeah, calling her sis.
We're the same.
And then instantly it switches for both of them, this power dynamic. And they go upstairs where they are just forced to hold their hands up while those two are, like, relaxing on the couch. And then again, it switches so quickly. And so I wonder if that is a statement about in these, or when you are at that low level of poverty and you're trying to climb, you might like get slightly above the other poor person, but it's just such a crapshoot. It's like it,
For me, it was less of like a luck type of thing, like who's going to come out on top of it. For me, it was literally like the lower class is fighting itself. They are fighting themselves, literally climbing over each other to get up the rung.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's how I interpreted it.
I think it's smart. Yeah,
it's when one of them needs the other. It's please, like we're the same. We got to work together. But as soon as the other one gets ahead, it's the opposite. It's like don't even ask me kind of thing. And I think that spoke more of this idea of this class struggle of they're all trying to reach that upper echelon, but truthfully they're tooth and nail fighting each other for it. Instead of helping each other, like lifting each other up, they're just beating the crap out of each other so that they can be the last one standing. And hopefully because they're the last one, they get to go up kind of thing.
That's interesting.
Last person standing gets to be in the upper class. It's like this, even just the middle class, to be honest. Which is something interesting in this one for me is they're trying to go from lower class to upper class. They're skipping that middle class altogether.
Again, I don't think they are necessarily. I don't think, other than Kevin saying, like, I want to marry her and then this house will be mine, they're all just trying to get money. They're just trying to, I think they are trying to, like, hey, we'll take the steps, we'll do whatever we can. I don't think they actually think they could get to that level. I think it's more about that being close to it, being able to have this job where, oh, these rich benefactors are giving us money, which is why there is some worship of Mr. Park from Mr. Kim as well. Even afterwards, after Mr. Kim has killed him, right, he's down there looking at like pictures of him and saying, I'm so sorry. And I think he really does. He feels regret for what he did because there is some fondness, but also some worship of him. Right.
Well, it's the gracious Mr. Park is giving me a life, is blessing me with the life that is better than the one I had.
Yeah.
So a little bit of hero worship in a way.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, so they say how Mrs. Park is so nice.
Right.
And then the mother says, well, she's nice because she's rich, right? The rich get to iron out their creases.
Right. That is such a good line in this movie. I love that. And that's something I really liked about this movie is that he didn't make the rich family, assholes.
Which would have been so easy.
It would have been, yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what he did in Joker and Todd Phillips, and that's again why I think Joker. I heard this. I want to say from Owls at Dawn, the podcast. They said Parasite is the film that Joker wanted to be.
Yeah. No, I agree because Joker makes the upper class look like actual jerks.
Yeah.
Like sure, there's this little bit of like like apathy in the upper class for the lower class
Yeah.
a lot of times, but there's not like direct like hatred like like Joker was showing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in some cases I think there is, but not
For sure.
not the way Joker was doing it.
It's just more interesting
Right.
when there is this gray area where they're not just
this
terrible
family
people.
is perfectly nice, and even when we were talking about the smell and things like that, they weren't mean about it. It was just like a passing comment. You know what I mean? Just like an acknowledgement of like, yeah, they have that. They kind of smell bad. You know, it's not that big of a deal, but like, that's just what it is. Like,
yeah.
I thought that was a nice touch to not like you kind of like them. You know what I mean? Like I at least I do. I kind of like them. I do, and I think that the Kims say it the whole time too. They're like we kind of like them. You know, they're not.
I don't
so
think
bad.
they're sheepish about it.
No,
I think they like.
We
them.
like them a lot. Yeah. I want to marry that girl. I really like her. Mr. Kim idolizes Mr. Park, and I think they do like them in a lot of ways, even though they're taking advantage of them.
We touched on this. What do you think is up with the Park son? I think it's Da Sung.
Yeah.
His obsession with Native Americans. Right? I mean, the film they just say Indians straight out. But,
yeah. This one's hard for me because I didn't really. I know in films like everything has a meaning, and so sometimes like when something comes in like that, I'm not quite sure what to make of it. But the more I think about
not always, by the way. Depends on the film.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I think a well-made movie, everything has its meaning. For me, it felt like an allusion to the fact that the Native Americans had the colonists come over, right? Mm-hmm. And at first, the colonists had a symbiotic relationship with the Native Americans. At first, when they were small in numbers, they kind of inhabited things together. But it didn't take too long for the colonies to start taking over everything from the Native Americans to the point where to the point where they've nearly eliminated them from the planet. The colonists were kind of the parasite, right? And the Native Americans represent the organism that the parasite killed. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I guess it's kind of having the song "Love Native Americans, Love Indians" is kind of showing that in this scenario, the family, the rich family, the upper class family, is kind of like the Native Americans in this story. They're this thing that this entity is trying to infiltrate and then kind of take over and start manipulating from within.
Okay. It's interesting to read.
Yeah. Like I said, this was kind of off the cuff, kind of like thinking about it. Like I kind of just put it out of my mind a little bit. Not put it out of my mind, but I just really hadn't like ruminated on it a lot. So this is just kind of me like off the cuff thinking about what I can kind of see there.
I mean, again, I think we have a little bit of a we both see the film slightly differently in the sense that I really don't view the Parks or the Kims rather as thinking, oh, we're going to like ascend all the way to this upper class and really like kind of come over here. I view them as, oh, we're gonna live this life of kind of leeching off these guys, and that's good enough. So I don't see them necessarily as like the colonizers who are taking over. I actually view it as it's almost kind of going back to what I said about Mr. Park on the couch when he's saying, oh, do you have those like cheap poor girl panties on because that would make me so turned on. It's this ability for the rich to use the poor almost as like this tool for fantasy, right? Like
kind of fetishize it.
Yeah, I get to play this game where we're poor and we're having like dirty poor sex and you're in the sense of the Indians, like you're an oppressed people, so they get to pretend to be these oppressed people and only focus on like the fun parts of it and not actually have to worry about the conflicts. And of course it's a little bit different because it's a kid, but I really think that's the attempt there, is to show like they just get to play this game, right? Like when it's pouring outside, he gets to go pretend to be an Indian in a tent out in the rain, and it's super fun and cute. And meanwhile, the Kim family is getting shit thrown throughout their house.
Yeah.
And like
I definitely understand that interpretation, but I also think that at least the original colonies weren't necessarily there to fully take over. A lot of them were.
Dude, no.
The early colonists were there escaping their own persecution for their
Columbus
religion.
went over. That was his whole thing, was like murdering them.
Well, yeah, okay. That's fair. That's fair. Like I said. I think I'm talking about like.
I think you're maybe thinking of.
Well, the Mayflower. The Mayflower was first.
Well, Columbus was first. He was the first one to go over.
Right, but he didn't establish colonies in the United States.
Yeah, but he started the process of we're pushing
he
them
discovered
off the lands,
it,
we're
and
killing
then
them. And even the whole
Yeah.
story of like these people coming over just to escape religious persecution. We got taught a different story when we were younger, which was just like, oh yeah, they all had Thanksgiving together, and it was all cordial. Like,
well,
oh,
I know
hey, you teach us this stuff.
I know it's not.
It wasn't that case, right? Like, it wasn't. It was a colonization, and even
Right.
though any kind of kindness from the colonizers' part was just to get close so that they could then burn these people, and oppress them. And so, yeah, in that sense, I think it's the ability of the rich to fantasize about these terrible situations that other people actually live. And it's like, oh, cool, I get to play it for a little while and help me get my rocks off.
Yeah.
Back to my good life.
It's the fetishizing is very interesting in this film, for sure. There's quite a bit of fetishisms.
Fetishizations.
Fetishizations.
You got any Joe Grizzlies in this one?
Joe Grizzly, I mean, most of the cast is featured pretty well. I think everybody gets a pretty good time. I mean, that's one of the reasons why this film won the best ensemble cast at the SAG Awards. I mean, they definitely earned it. All of them are really great. For me, the daughter of the Kim family, they call Jessica from Chicago. I really liked what she was doing the most. I thought she was giving this great kind of like, she's a little bit of a computer genius. Like, they talk about how, like, man, like, she knows her shit on the internet and online, and she knows how to, like, manipulate like this, but yet she has this kind of, like, sarcastic charisma to her that I really was enjoying throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
I really liked what she was giving, for sure. Out of, like, all the family, I kind of, like, really enjoyed what she was giving the most.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, I feel like I keep jumping back to the things we brought up because there's so much evidence, but the fascination with Western culture, again, comes in the form of her saying, oh, I went to, like, Illinois State, and the mom
Go Redbirds!
saying just Illinois. She doesn't even get to the state part. She's like,
oh,
Illinois, like
Illinois.
an American school. Okay, yeah, great.
Yeah.
And how they chose, like, American names to better ingratiate themselves. Yeah, I would say Jojo Rabbit. My Joe Grizzly.
You're Jojo Rabbit.
My Joe Grizzly would be the servant and her husband. I'd love to see. I think like watching how that story unfolded,
like a prequel.
Yeah,
it's very fascinating.
It would be pretty interesting. I think
how she got him under, and then like that she's been feeding him for like 3-4 years, and his like obsession with Mr. Park and things like that.
Yeah,
it is really weird. It's a really weird this movie is like so like feels like straightforward and just kind of like dramatic, tense kind of thriller. Like a thriller, like not even like a thriller, but like a tense drama. And then it veers into thriller, just like right there at the end.
He plays with different genres
so good,
so well, and like it goes seamlessly through them.
That moment, like you said, where they walk down the stairs and they see her like up trying to push this this cabinet off, and it's like, what is, like, I literally in my head
following the camera going down.
I'm like, what is about to happen right now? And then you hear her like shouting, and you're like, what is, like, honestly, you know what I thought? This is what I thought when I first saw this movie. I thought that the Parks had like kidnapped her child and was like keeping them down in this basement.
I thought they were like dead bodies or something.
I don't know why, but I thought like, this family's too nice. This movie's got to flip it at some point.
Yeah.
And look, I was really happy with like, no, the family's fine. It's this woman's has like a sub level of like leeching off of this family kind of thing.
It's a great reveal too, because earlier in the film, right, Mr. Park says, yeah, you know, she's great, but I mean, she eats a lot. She eats enough for two.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, because she's been stealing that food for her husband.
And then we were talking about the lights. So you see the lights when he walks up the stairs. Yeah. The lights only turn on when he comes up the stairs. There's a moment where Mr. Kim or somebody else comes up the stairs and the lights don't turn on.
I don't believe that's true, but you could be right.
Well, I don't think they turn on for. I remember them not turning on for somebody, but that may have just been I feel like editing
they did. And my other reason to think they would is because, like, how does he always know?
Well, I think it's because he knows Mr. Kim's schedule.
Maybe, but
maybe,
I mean, there are
maybe
erratic times,
maybe
right?
he's so obsessed he knows the weight of his footfalls.
Yeah, again, I really do think there were multiple times when they.
I would have to rewatch it again to be close. Again, like, you usually notice those things more, but I thought I noticed there was a moment where the lights didn't turn on for somebody as they walked up.
I think so, but you could be right.
Maybe, I don't know. So tell us in the comments.
Yeah. just the when someone just says to you, "Parasite," what's the first thing that comes to mind?
The movie.
Yeah, I know, but what of the movie?
What other movie?
Any scenes or anything?
Oh the second thing that comes to my mind is the song by Coldplay.
Any scenes from the movie Parasite?
Oh, the scene where she gets kicked down the stairs.
Yeah.
Huh. Just that like sly little like back kick, and then the end over end, and then you're right, that thud. And then, what I loved about this movie, at that moment, was like I love that it didn't overdo that moment.
Oh yeah.
It didn't have like her head hit and like break and like splatter like blood. It was like so just like subtle.
Realistic.
It sounded so real.
Yeah,
It sounded so real. And then you don't even see any blood until Mr. Kim like tries to make sure she's alive, and he touches like the back of her head, and he pulls his hand away, and his hand has blood all over it.
Yeah.
Like that's the first time you even know that like she's like is severely hurt. Other than the fact that she's knocked out.
Yeah.
And then again that moment, the moment later where her husband hits Kevin in the head with the rock.
Oh, God.
And again, another movie and I think a less competent director, or at least our production designer would have had Kevin's head partially explode, or like flatten or something more dramatic. But it just whacks him in the head, and he just like twitches. Like it doesn't like to completely destroy him kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think I appreciated that in the violence, that it felt so...
Felt real.
Yes, it felt so real. It didn't feel not glamorized. It didn't feel overdone. Mm-hmm. And I appreciated that.
I mean, that's something we didn't talk about either. It was like, what's the deal with The Rock? And it's so metaphorical, which is something he says a lot in the beginning of the film, but not so much later on. And I wonder if The Rock becomes this, right? It's supposed to be a good luck thing to help your family rise.
It's supposed to bring prosperity.
And as they do start to grow, he doesn't bring up it's so metaphorical quite as often. So I wonder if, because the situation's becoming so real, and of course then the situation happens with the bunker, it's just too vivid. And we see a moment too where he submerges The Rock, almost as though that drive for prosperity is going to be something that's buried in his subconscious, that's going to be driving him forward to try.
It clings to him.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a whole nother thing.
Mm-hmm.
We could talk about.
There's so many layers in this movie. There's so many layers. Oh my god, we could talk about this movie for a real long time, and we have.
But I think that'll do it for us.
Yeah.
I don't know if you got anything else.
I don't. It's great. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Just because it's a foreign film, you got to get over it because it's so good.
It definitely deserved to win Best Picture.
I think so.
I'm very glad it did.
Yeah, get out of here, all you Joker people, all you jokers.
Remember, Ricky tells kids to shut up. He said that.
No, there's no proof. I have it
recorded.
There's no proof
on my audio.
There's no proof of this. Yeah, guess who does the audio in this group?
I'll make sure I post something. Just a 5-second clip of Ricky saying.
That's wrong. That is wrong. All
right, guys. That'll do it for us. Peace.
I'm so mad.